evening to you there, viewer. It's another beautiful Monday morning and we are coming to you live from the Osrc television right here in Orita Obele, Akure. On today's edition of AM Today, we've got a beautiful lineup for you, from bringing to you top stories, making headlines from around the world, and engaging you on conversation and issues that matter to you and our society. My name is Adebukola Oba, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the program. Of course, I'm not alone this morning. I've got my beautiful co-host with me by the name Aisosa Monilari. Hello, Aisosa. Good to have you on the program.
Yes, thank you so much. And you look good yourself.
Thank you.
I love your hairdo.
Thank you.
And of course, happy new month. You know, this is the first Monday of the month of August. So yes, happy new month to our viewer out there too. And I hope and pray this month, brings answers to all your secret prayers. And of course, I cannot go without saying this. The rains are here. You need to, prepare yourself so you will not be caught off guard when you are outside.
Of course. Thank you so much, Aisosa. We're going to begin with our newspaper review, and I'll be taking stories from The Punch, Vanguard, and Nigerian Tribune, while Aisosa will bring you stories from the remaining newspaper. I'm going to be taking my first story from Punch newspaper, and it reads, Fake agency scandal. Agency alleging that several ministries, departments, and agencies of the federal government processed, recognized, or interacted with the council. Adeyemi, who is in police custody, made the claims in a statement on Sunday through his legal defense team signed by Festus Akigbe, while also demanding to appear before the House of Representatives and HOC committee investigating the council. The legal team argued that its clients should be allowed to testify before the committee chaired by Yusuf Gadi, warning that any report produced without hearing from him would violate his constitutional right to a fair hearing. We formally request that the panel issue the necessary administrative clearance to allow our client, Prince Adeniyi Adeyemi Matthew, to appear in person and testify. Any investigative outcome of final hearing will be fundamentally flawed, incomplete, and a breach of the constitutional right to a fair hearing. Audi Altaram Patan, the statement read. For more details on this story, you can find on the Punch newspaper.
Talking about this story, I would love to say the fact that Adeyemi still understands that he didn't do this
alone, of course.
A lot. So I just hope
that he doesn't want to go down alone.
Of course, and it's not easy for you to be in the federal secretariat and you said, and they are saying he single-handedly did this. That is not possible. I just pray it opens. This is more like a conspiracy.
Yes.
But with investigations, I hope that other culprits will be brought.
Yes, we do hope that the authorities are going to do their due diligence here. Mr. Adeyemi, as he claimed, he said he's not the only one that's involved in all this. So of course, all the corporates have to be brought to book.
All right, so moving on to the Daily Trust this morning. Defense he said this while revealing that his mother sustained their family through the sale of. He said the sacrifice laid the foundation for his rise to public office. Musa said no honest means of livelihood should be looked down upon. He stressed that small businesses remain powerful tools for family survival and economic advancement. He stressed that small businesses. He spoke in Abuja during a one-day training and financial empowerment workshop for widows and wives of military personnel. The event was organized by the Ministry of Defense in collaboration with the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria. It was themed Renewed Hope for Families of the Armed Forces of Nigeria. From there, I guess it's just trying to tell people that, do not look down on small-scale businesses. Anyone can actually start from there and still rise. But looking at the current economic situation, do you think one can still sell akara to sustain a family?
Well, it depends on the kind of family. But like the president's wife also reiterated that you can, it's actually taking the nuclear family that do not really have
even the nuclear family. Do you know how much the universities pay now for fees?
Yes.
So let's talk about the nuclear family that has just 2 children. It will still be a struggle.
A lot, but
it's still going to be a struggle.
To start with something.
To sustain.
Yes, to sustain.
Okay.
And you can also, starting with that, you can also expand moving forward. You can expand from that one stall to other stalls. So I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing, and it's actually something.
I don't think that's
actually going to deepen the division currently. And when we're talking about a continent that is hoping to have unity and shared prosperity,
that's not.
I don't think that is the way to go.
They just need to find a common ground to resolve whatever it is.
Of course.
But truthfully, South Africans are. I saw videos of them destroying and looting people's shops, and it's like very disheartening. I would just urge Nigerians that are over there, please come home.
Yes.
All right. So moving on to the Daily Trust. Still on Daily Trust. Federal government plans fresh investments in grid stabilization. The federal government has announced plans for fresh investment in stabilizing the national grid against recurring collapses and voltage fluctuations in the country. Besides, the government said the planned investment will focus on reinforcing critical transmission corridors, expanding grid redundancy, and modernizing control and monitoring systems to reduce the frequency and impact of outages. The Minister of Power, Joseph Tegbe, who disclosed this at the weekend, said the ministry was moving beyond short-term fixes towards a structural overhaul of the transmission network. It described grid stability as the foundation on which every other promises to Nigerians on power must be built. We cannot talk about generation gains or distribution reforms if the grid itself is fragile. This administration is committed to a stable, resilient national grid, not as a slogan, but as a measurable time-bound program of work, the minister said. You can find more of that stories on the Daily Trust.
Well, there's something about this electricity that's actually
the grid
concerning,
keeps collapsing,
and there's also a new reform, and the government is saying they want to remove subsidy on electricity. And when we talk about that, we already see how that played out with the fuel, and now they want to remove subsidy from electricity. And then it begs the question: do the federal government actually consider the reality of an average Nigerian before they go ahead to form some of this reforms?
I think that has been something a lot of people have been saying. You don't just come out and push something out. Do your due diligence. Go out and do a survey. I think I was out yesterday, or I can't remember, during the week, and someone was complaining about the high cost she's spending on electricity tariff. Now imagine if the subsidy is also you understand. So I think proper survey needs to be done. Someone has to go to the grassroots level
to see how people are being
affected. Then you can come out and say, okay, this needs to be done. But I believe that they've not implemented it yet.
They haven't.
So when Nigerians,
they want to. It's actually going to play out.
We cannot say so, because we know that the country we live in, they've been this so back and forth about bringing out something and then coming back later to say we thought about it. And I'm like, you didn't think about it before going ahead to push it out there.
We do hope that the federal government is actually going to consider the reality of everyday Nigerians before going out to implement this reform.
Yes.
So I'm still on Punch newspaper, and my next story says, months after completion, Rivers lawmakers shun new assembly complex. Despite being completed several months ago, the new Rivers State House of Assembly complex remains unoccupied, with lawmakers continuing to hold plenary and other legislative business at their residential quarters along Aba Road in Port Harcourt. The reconstructed complex on Moscow Road, equipped with modern facilities, enhanced security systems, and upgraded interior fittings, have been a prominent landmark in the state capital. Governor Similayi Fubara had, on November, the state of emergency in Rivers, announced that the complex would be ready for use by December 2025. Commending the contractors, Julius Berger and MCC, Fubara expressed optimism that with the political crisis resolved, lawmakers will return to the new chambers, where he hoped to present the 2026 appropriation bill to the Martin Amaewhule-led House of Assembly. He said, "We have worked diligently to ensure that their permanent chambers are ready. We know the challenges that affected our relationship previously, but by the special grace of God, everything has been resolved, and we are determined to ensure the Assembly returns to its rightful place. I firmly believe that this facility will be ready before the end of December." Well, but for more details on this, you can actually occupy this new assembly even after months of completion.
You know, I think Rivers State, they just have a lot
going on.
A lot is going on that I think even we, the citizens of the country, we are not aware of. But whatever it is, I hope and pray they resolve it on time.
You know,
because they have people that they are governed. So people also need their representative, you know, doing what they are there for.
Of course,
yes.
Of course.
So I just hope they get it resolved. Okay, so moving on, I'm still on Daily Trust. Protect the court before 2027. The decision of the Court of Appeal last week to set aside the judgment of Federal High Court directing the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to deregister 5 political parties has restored constitutional order to what had become an embarrassing judicial controversy. It was a welcome intervention that reaffirmed a fundamental principle: no court is at liberty to disregard the authority of a superior court. Yet, while the appellate court corrected the legal error, it did not, and indeed could not, repair the damage done to public leadership of the judicial arm of government. The significance of the appellate court verdict lies not merely in its outcome, but also in the unusually stern language employed by the justice. They described the conduct of the trial judge, Justice Peter Lifu, as amounting to judicial impertinence and judicial insubordination, invoking settled Supreme Court authorities on the sanctity of judicial hierarchy. Such strong words from a superior court should leave no one in doubt that this was not an ordinary procedural disagreement, but a grave incident on the Daily Trust.
Okay, I'm moving on to Nigerian Tribune now. FG defends revocation of mining licenses, dismisses Chinese bias allegations. The federal government has defended its decision to revoke the mining licenses of Basin Mining Limited, insisting the action was based solely on the company's failure to meet its statutory in recent media reports. The federal government, through a statement issued on Sunday by the Special Advisor on Media to the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dr. Dele Alake Kehinde Bamigbeton, also dismissed allegations that the minister was handling Nigeria's mineral wealth to Chinese interest, describing the clearing reforms in the mining sector. According to Bamigbeton, Basin Mining Limited's mineral titles were revoked after the company allegedly failed to pay statutory annual service fees amounting to 1.223 billion naira in 2024, a debt he said later rose to about 2.492 billion naira before the licenses were eventually cancelled. He alleged that despite not being the holder of the revoked licenses, British-Australian firm Jupiter instituted arbitration proceedings against the federal government, claiming a violation of the Nigeria-United Kingdom bilateral investment treaty. The presidential aide, further alleged that the company had since resorted to media campaigns and cyber attacks against Alake in an effort to pressure the government into reversing the revocation. The revocation was carried out in accordance with Nigerian mining laws and had nothing to do with the nationality of any investor, he said. For more details on this story, of course, you can find on the Nigerian Tribune.
Okay, moving on to the Guardian this morning. Atiku, presidency bikers over economic performance, Nigerians' reality. Former Vice President and presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress (ADC), Atiku Abubakar, has slammed the President Bola Tinubu-led government over its management of the economy. Atiku said that no amount of lying with statistics could shield the administrations from what he described as its worsening economic record. The former vice president also accused the current administration of attempting to rewrite Nigerians' economic realities through what he called creative accounting and polished public presentations, maintaining that the daily hardship confronting Nigerians tells a completely different story. Article in a statement yesterday by his senior special assistant on public communication, Frank Shaibu, dismissed recent comments by the Minister of Finance, Taiwo Oyedele, who had defended the administration economic reforms, including the removal of fuel subsidy, debt management strategy, and workers' well, that savings from the removal of fuel subsidy are being deployed to reduce inherited liabilities is inconsistent with publicly available financial records. He said that rather than reducing indebtedness to the Central Bank of Nigeria, the CBN, the Tinubu administration had significantly expanded it. And you can find details of that story on The Guardian this morning.
Alright, I'm still on Nigerian Tribune. State Police Sharia Council warns against speedy constitutional amendments. The Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria, SCSN, has warned against rushed constitutional amendments to create state police. It also urged the federal government and the National Assembly to ensure wider consultations before taking a final decision on the proposed reform. In a statement issued on Sunday and signed by its Secretary General, Nafiu Baba Ahmad, noted that it has been closely monitoring the ongoing national debate and legislative process on state police, describing the issue as one with far-reaching implications for justice, national unity, and the country's future. The council acknowledged that Nigeria was facing one of the gravest security crises in its history, with thousands of innocent lives lost, millions displaced, and widespread destruction of agriculture, businesses, and livelihoods, leaving many communities living in fear. According to the Council, while every sincere effort aimed at improving national security should be welcomed, state police should not be presented as a quick or marginal solution to the country's security challenges. The SCSN urged that the failures of the existing security architecture were rooted largely in inadequate funding, corruption, insufficient personnel, poor welfare, weak intelligence gathering, obsolete equipment, and ineffective coordination among security agencies. It maintained that the country's immediate priority should be the comprehensive reform and strengthening of existing security institutions through better funding, recruitment, modern technology, intelligence gathering, border security, accountability, and professionalism. For more details on this, you can find on Nigerian Tribune. But I think this is actually a good observation, because it's not just enough to create state policing, and you have to look at what was actually the problem now. And as you're saying, creating state policing is not just going to make all our problems disappear, because there's actually an issue in the system already: the poor infrastructure, the inadequate funding for intelligence gathering. There's no proper infrastructure. The personnel are not being taken care of.
From the angle of who is even going to be managing these state police, there's a lot. That's what we talk about. They are always rushing to do things, although I know it's a welcome development if we have state policing, because we can see the jobs that local vigilantes they are doing. But I think a lot still needs to be considered and put in place before establishing them. If not, it's just going to be more like a replica of the usual policemen that we already have. Their welfare is also not being taken care of. Then of course they will also become a menace in the society.
I do hope that these structural deficiencies would be taken care of before this state policing is going to be implemented going forward.
Alright, still on The Guardian, police arrest fake custom officer, 17 suspected cultists rescue kidnapped victim of a kidnapped victim. In Lagos, operatives of the State Criminal Investigation Department, SCID Yaba, arrested a man accused of impersonating a Nigerian customs service officer and allegedly defrauding a victim of 520,000 naira in a fake shipment clearance scheme. The suspect allegedly convinced the complainant that goods shipped from the United States had arrived in Nigeria and demanded 1.8 million as clearing and delivery charges. To lend credibility to the claim, he reportedly sent a purported shipping label and tracking number. Believing the claim, the complainant paid 520,000 naira as an initial deposit, with the balance to be paid upon delivery of the goods. However, the suspect allegedly became unreachable after receiving the payment, prompting the victim to petition the police. Following the complaint, the Lagos State Commissioner of Police, Fatai Tijani, directed the SCID to intensify investigation into the case. Police source said the investigation, handled by the anti-robbery unit of the SCID under the supervision of the Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of the department, Dayo, revealed that the suspect had also falsely presented himself as a clearing agent. You can find more of that story organized, but then we just have some bad eggs. Let's put it that way.
Bad eggs. So I think the ministry that is supposed to be overseeing the activities of these other agencies should actually ask yourself, what are they doing? They should actually sit up and ensure that scenes like this, we don't see them anymore. I'm still on Nigerian Tribune, and the story here reads: Serap to Tinubu, probe alleged police fraud, missing 42 AK-47 rifles. A call has been extended to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to order an immediate investigation into alleged diversion and misapplication of over 6.79 billion naira within the Nigerian Police Force (NPF) and the Federal Ministry of Police Affairs. The call was made on Sunday by Lagos-based rights group Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project (SERAP) through a letter dated August 1, 2026 and signed by its Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare. SERAP specifically asked President Tinubu to direct the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, the Inspector General of Police, and anti-corruption agencies to probe the allegations documented in the 2022 annual report of the Auditor General of the Federation, published on September 9, 2025. The group made a demand for the prosecution of contractors, companies, and public officials found culpable and the full recovery of all missing funds, firearms, and ammunition. According to the group, the Auditor General's report uncovered massive financial irregularities, including payments for unexecuted projects, abandoned contracts, inflated contract costs, irregular procurements, unretired cash advances, and payments for services not rendered, amounting to over 6.79 billion naira. For more details on this Serap to Tinubu story, you can find on the Nigerian Tribune.
Okay, still on the Guardian, still talking about the state police. State police needs independent commissions, not governors' control. A member of the Presidential Advisory Committee that packaged the 2014 National Conference, Colonel Tony Nyam, has argued that state police services in Nigeria should be overseen by independent police service commissions rather than the state governors. Speaking on the ongoing debate over the creation and administration of state police, Nyam said allowing governors to directly control state police formation could undermine the independence and open the door to political interference. According to him, the appropriate authority for supervising the state police should be a state police service commission composed of representatives from various segments of society rather than the executive arm of government. Never, in terms of universal good governance practices, should the executive, legislative, or the judicial arm of a state government directly control a state police service, he said. Nyam, who also played a role in the 1990 Major Gideon Oka coup, further proposed that members of the police commission should be drawn from faith-based organizations, traditional institutions, labor unions, and legal professions profession, civil society organizations, and other community group. You can find more of that story on The Guardian.
Yeah, thank you so much, Isosa. I think that's all we can take on the newspaper review for this morning. Join us again next week for another edition of the newspaper review. So we are going to take our first break now. When we return, it will be time for the first discussion on the program this morning. You don't want to miss it. Please stay with us.
She was called the Lioness of Lisabi, a name that roared through the halls of colonial power and echoed in the hearts of women across Africa. Her name is Funmilayo Ransome Kuti, a teacher, activist, feminist, nationalist, and mother to legends. But before the fame, there was fire. Born on October 25, 1900 in Abeokuta, present-day Ogun State, Nigeria. Funmilayo was born Frances Abigail Olufunmilayo Thomas. She came from a family that valued education, and in 1914, determined and brilliant, she later traveled to England for further studies. A rare feat for a Nigerian woman at that time. There, she trained as a teacher, absorbing ideas of equality and freedom that would shape her life's mission. On returning to Nigeria in the 1920s, she married Reverend Israel Ransome Kuti, a clergyman and educator. Together, they worked to uplift their community through education. But Funmilayo was not content with just teaching. She saw how colonial rule and traditional structure. In 1947, she founded the Abeokuta Women's Union, one of Africa's most powerful grassroots women movements. The group fought against unfair taxation and the corrupt practices of the Alake, the traditional ruler of Abeokuta. In protest, they sang, they chanted, they occupied, and eventually they won. The Alake was forced to abdicate. Funmilayo Ransome Kuti was fearless. She was one of the few Nigerian women to drive. Her activism didn't stop in Abeokuta. She was a founding member of the Nigerian Union of Teachers, a member of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroon's NCNC. And in 1953, she became the first Nigerian woman to visit the Soviet Union, a move that earned her the label Communist Sympathizer by British authorities. But she wasn't deterred. In fact, she was emboldened. In her later years, she focused on broader issues: education, voting rights, women participation in politics. She advocated for the inclusion of women in leadership and resisted Nigeria's slide into authoritarianism. She raised 4 children, including Fela Anikulapo Kuti, the legendary Afrobeat pioneer, instilling in them the spirit of resistance and truth. But tragedy would eventually come. In 1977, during a brutal military raid on Fela's compound known as Kalakuta Republic.
Not truly developed. Yet, in a country like Nigeria that is blessed with a vast farmland and millions of farmers, many Nigerians still struggle to afford food for themselves and even for their family. So this morning, we'll be looking at Nigeria's food sufficiency agenda, the progress, the challenges, and the way forward. So to help us make sense of this very important topic, we have in the studio with us Professor Bolanle Oniya from the Department of Biology, Federal University of Technology, Akure. Professor, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Good morning, dear viewers. Good morning. Is poverty.
Okay.
Because for a good number of people, if the money were there, they will be able to purchase the food that they want to eat. The issue of insufficient production is actually relative, really.
Okay.
But I think on the food, there is no time you go to a Ojoba in Accra, as an example, that you don't have people selling food, even on the streets in the neighborhood.
So you actually think Nigeria is producing enough food to feed its population, but the citizens cannot actually
afford to buy that.
Okay.
I think that is the current.
Yes.
When you have money to purchase, that's when you cannot start to whether it's enough or not enough. Yeah, because just like I said, if you go around the market, you see foods. It's always there.
Every time
it's always there. There's never a time you have a shortage. It's always there, really. But
there are times where tomatoes, like there are some specific.
Which I'm going to talk about shortly.
Yeah.
But to answer that question, really, the issue of the cost of the food. There are a lot of factors that decimate it, really. And one, you've mentioned banditry. The other one is the issue of fuel. I mean, the cost of petrol. But I think basically fuel price drives the Nigerian economy for now.
Okay, so what about the law of demand and supply? Because I am still of the opinion that production is part of the reason why you see there is scarcity of this food product. Because you know the law of demand, when the demand is high, and like so you know the law of demand.
I know what you mean. When demand is high, the price goes up. When you have high supply, the price is very relative. Demand would actually come into focus when you go to the market to look for a particular produce and it's not there. The moment it comes to town, the price will hike, like we had for tomato some time ago. Right, tomato was very expensive because it was not just that may apply once in a while, but others are ready.
It has actually affected food production in any way.
It did. It actually did. The agricultural hub in Nigeria as of today is in the Middle Belt and the Northwest. That is the hub. If you let's look at at least the four basic ones. The hub is the Middle Belt and the Northwest. Kaduna, I mean, topping those four, right? Increase. So it means things are maybe a little better than it was then. There was a slight increase for last year. Nigeria produced about 56 million metric tons of rice, about 60 million metric tons of yam. We are still the leading yam producers in the world.
Security
it is the critical thing that has to be taken off the table
and
first.
do you think the Nigerian government, they are doing enough to ensure that insecurity is taken out of the table?
I think of late we now are at least privy to the activities of the military in terms of the interventions they are doing across the nation, which wasn't there before because we thought they weren't doing anything. But now you hear the brigade commands across all the theaters reporting they did this, they did that. It's all over social media. So if those accounts are actually true, then there's an improvement in the engagement against
I love the
insecurity.
fact that you made mention of if those accounts are
actually true.
I like to hope
Yeah.
actually true, and we expect better from our security agencies going forward. Now, Professor, let's look
sack farming, right? So it's purely for subsistence, really. Although I do a little bit of field farming too, but mostly agriculture. Now, every year before I set out, I have a colleague who is in meteorology in my university. Okay. I ask him for the weather forecast for the year, right? And NIMED does that every year. The weather forecast for the year. Yeah. So
help you plan better.
Exactly. I got that for this year as usual from him, and I studied it, looked at the areas for Ondo State, and I realized that if you plant with the first rain this year, is a disaster. It's a disaster.
Right? Why do you think so? Is it because
that was the forecast?
Okay.
It will start.
Okay.
It was pseudo, fake. It will start, then it will stop.
Okay. So it's not sufficient enough
it
for
will not sustain. It won't sustain.
Okay.
So this is not going to work. The forecast for this year says before you can plant anything meaningful, wait till May.
When the rains are
wait till May, then you can do your production cycle, because tomato takes about 2-3 months, right? And then you start again. So this year I don't see myself doing more than 2
for this year,
or this year, if at all, right? Do more than 2. So if you want to make use of this year's weather, I should have started planting about May, like I said, right, to benefit mostly from nature, really, and that takes you through to October. So almost all crops rely on water, but crops like tomato is a heavy water user, right? That one needs water very well. Corn needs water too. It's also
Professor, we actually want to take a short break now. Okay. We're going to take a commercial short break now. We'll be back soon.
Soft life isn't luck. It's a recipe. The right ingredients, the right balance, and everything just works. That's what soft life truly is. Choosing what's already made right for you. Hair growth, itchy scalp relief, dandruff control, anti-breakage. No stress, no guessing, just soft, easy hair every day. So yeah, be a chef, and when you get it right, it's effortless. Lush hair, live the soft life.
Excuse me, ma. This is your 100%
Babes, are you sure you want to spend this much on hair?
Since your landlord just increased rent, I saved for this one separately on money points. No, you say you save on money points? Yes. This madam money points here, the array of your there, his target savings money points I used to have it. The rest of this my sub is this savings money points I used to do it. The salary of this my staff is save as you transact, son.
Jennifer, money point save as you transact. Money point fixed savings and money point target savings.
What's up? Why did I tell you don't contribute to it? Why should I? Come on, oh, you go give your money to Hadaku to save. You see money points accounts there. You don't go open money points hack now. It's for you. What are you waiting for? Download the money points hack now. Hadaku, wow, open money points account.
Money point made for your progress.
Football lovers, the wait is over.
Wilson, who stands one up towards the back post. Luke Shaw bounces. Oh, what a save! Senna Lamont manages to get...
The WAFCON is here, and Osrc TV is bringing you live coverage of every thrilling moment, kicking off Sunday, July 26, 2026. Experience the passion, the rivalry, the excitement, and the very best of West African football, all from the comfort of your home. Watch live on Osrc TV, channel 23 UHF. You can also catch all the actions on Star Times channel 113, Mopless Digital Satellite channel 7, 7:20 or stream live anytime on the free TV app. And here's an opportunity for business. Place your adverts before the match, during halftime, and after the match, or within our special AFCON coverage. Let your brand reach thousands of football fans across Ondo State and beyond. Don't miss this winning opportunity to promote your products and services while the whole region is watching. AFCON live on Osrc TV, where football lives and your brand gets the attention it deserves. Osrc TV. Stay connected, stay informed.
Professor, you were talking about the demand.
Okay, I was also saying that three things needs to be fixed before the food prices can come down, as she was trying to raise at the background. Then that first we're fixing security.
Yes.
Second, we look at the exchange rate, because most producers also import some of their equipment they use in producing, and then we look at the fuel price. So these three instruments will affect to a lot of extent the price of food in the market.
So let's talk about the youths who are actually,
and when you harvest it, I mean, there's that joy. Or you see your chicken brood over eggs, and then the egg they hatch and the chick comes out. There's that joy.
That joy. Okay, so Professor, just before we go, how has technology improved agricultural production?
A lot.
Can you give us some technologies and how it has?
A lot. So
talking about the use of your weather forecast,
that's all technology. Exactly. So it's knowledge. So whatever knowledge you can use to better your farming is technology, right? So it's not only machine. No.
What about the use of greenhouses, the sector forward, and to improve food sufficiency in Nigeria? What advice would they be?
One, tackle insecurity and get it off our land completely, 100%.
Okay.
We need that security. It's very important. Let people sleep with their two eyes closed, right? So that will bring back all these IDPs and whatever. Then those who are using the teas should also be brought to justice. Really, it's very important, because they have more or less annihilated farming communities across Nigeria. That is one. Create the ambience for private investors to look at food processing. Like I said, a lot of foods produced go to waste annually after we harvest, a lot of it. So let's have that. We produce cocoa here in Nigeria, maybe next to Ghana or thereabout, and our children love to eat chocolate. We don't do that in Nigeria. We export the beans and then import the finished product.
Across Africa, the story of civilization cannot be told without the story of its women. The nurtured families, the sustained economies, the preserved culture and tradition have long carried the quiet strength that holds society together. Yet, history often remembered the thrones and forgot the women who helped shape them. But across this continent, there were daughters whose courage, wisdom, and leadership left indelible marks on history. Among the Yoruba people of West Africa, we Rompoto, the only known female Alaafin of the Great Oyo Empire, at a time when leadership was largely dominated by men. Orompoto rose to the throne and defended the kingdom with courage and determination. From the same royal heritage emerged another remarkable woman, Princess Pupupu, a daughter of Oyo who led a historic migration that established the Ondo kingdom. She became the first ruler of the kingdom, laying the foundation for generations to come. In Ile-Ife, the cradle of Yoruba civilization, another heroine is remembered through legend and tradition. Moremi Ajasoro, a woman whose bravery saved her people. Through sacrifice and determination, she uncovered the secrets of invading enemies and secured freedom for her land. Centuries later, the spirit of leadership rose again in Madame Efuroye Tinubu, Queen Mother of the Ashanti Kingdom, led a historic resistance against colonial forces in defense of the sacred golden stool. In the kingdom of Dahomey, women took extraordinary roles in defending their land. The Agoje, an elite all-female military regiment, stood among the most formidable fighting forces of their time, led by fearless commanders such as Sedonhobe. In Southern Africa, Princess Nkabai played decisive roles in royal succession and political strategy within the Zulu kingdom, shaping the destiny of her people from behind the throne. And in Ethiopia, history remembers powerful women who stood at the center of empire. Empress Seitu Betul helped lead the resistance that defeated invading forces at the Battle of Adwa, preserving Ethiopia's sovereignty. Years later, Empress Zeditu would ascend the imperial throne herself, ruling as one of Africa's rare female sovereign monarchs. These women were not exceptions, they were evidence that the African woman has always possessed the wisdom to guide, the courage to defend, and the strength to lead. Today, the African woman on narrow expectation institutions. She can preserve culture and transform governance. Empowerment in the African sense is not a battle between men and women. It is partnership, not competition but complementarity, not rivalry but contribution. For the progress of society depends on the combined strength of men and women working together, because Africa does not rise when men rise alone. Africa rises when her daughters rise too. Today, we celebrate the daughters of the continent, past, present, and future. For among the young girls walking to school today may stand the next builders of nations, the next voices of courage, and the next heroines of Africa. Thank you for staying with us. Before we go ahead to our next discussion, we'll be giving our insights on some of the issues we're currently facing as Nigerians. I mean, issues shaping our everyday life as Nigerians. And one of it is flooding, and which has been a major concern for most of the residents in Ondo State right now, with recent reports of flooding in the Akure metropolis and even Ondo down to Ore city. So we're going to be talking about how this flooding is affecting our everyday lives and the practices most of the citizens are actually involved in to further intensify this flooding. And you know, when you look at some of these properties and even vehicles, you see there's a particular video trending from Ore.
Okay.
The road was actually to understand what is going on, because they probably feel that because of the rain and that's why everywhere is flooded. It's just sweep it off, but they don't even understand that this refuse is going to go ahead to block a particular waterway, and that is also one of the reasons that causes the flooding. So I think there should be more orientation on this. What is the Ministry of the Waste Management doing, and also the Ministry of Water itself? What are they doing to ensure enough sensitization to the general public to understand the adverse effect of pouring refuse? And even the Ministry of Environment. The other day we had the Commissioner for Environment who came here to actually told us about what they are doing to ensure that more residents are aware of their actions
People need to face consequences of their actions.
Yes,
someone needs to monitor this thing. You as a neighbor to the person actually doing the thing, if you can actually report them, and then when they see that there are consequences, immediate consequences for their action, because sometimes it takes more than enlightening these people to actually do the correct thing. So I think you can see environmental sanitation. Sorry, but I think last week, which was the last Saturday, I am not sure there was actually the people, their practice towards it, it's not really there.
And I think that is actually reduced because the government said they can now be movement. Movements is no longer restricted for environmental sanitation. And with this, many people just go ahead with their business and everyday life and forget about environmental sanitation. But I think the restriction should be back. It's just a few minutes, a few hours.
Yes.
I mean,
you know, another thing is now you have flooding in other areas, so you may not be affected because you have drainage, but when the flood in somewhere else,
of course. And like you said, it's not only the responsibility of the government. As citizens, we also have a role to play. And yes, the government should look more into urban planning and restructuring to ensure that these waterways are being taken care of, and it's not just enough for them to dig drainages. Is this water?
Talking about flooding, causes of flooding, let's also talk about the consequences of flooding. And the first on the list is going to be loss of lives. We've seen cases where when it floods, I think I saw a news where 10 children, I think a family of 6 or so, they were swept and they lost their lives, displaced, and they cannot find their children or something. So you see, flooding can actually lead to loss of life.
Thank you for staying with us. When we talk about electricity, it's one of the biggest drivers of economic growth, because this is what powers our houses, especially some parts of Ondo State. Many people or many communities still face the challenge of electricity because it's either not sufficient or they do not have access to electricity in that community. So this morning we'll be looking at the efforts being made by the state government and to ensure and to improve power supply and to expand access to electricity to support businesses, and of course through this new project, through energy projects that is being implemented. So our focus this morning is going to be expanding access to reliable electricity across Ondo State. So joining us in the studio is the Honorable Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Research.
Assent to it.
Okay, so with these steps towards ensuring the states now take over the electricity distribution, what does this mean for an average Ondo State?
You know, our boss in this state used to be the BEDC before the advent of ascending to the electricity bill.
Okay.
They used to be our boss, but now the case is not so again because we now regulate them.
Okay.
As a state. We now tell them what we want and what we feel like the situation should be.
Okay, so the Ondo State government has been distributing transformers to several communities.
Yes.
What informed this intervention?
You know, the monopoly in the system.
Okay.
When you talk about petroleum,
Okay.
there are a lot of monopolies. You know, the major problem we have in Nigeria is that our refinery, the government does not control the refineries.
Yes.
The refineries we have are not operational. And because of that, the government cannot control the prices. It's not like electricity.
Okay, that they have control.
Yes, electricity now we have control.
Okay.
As a state government, Ondo State was the first to attain that height in Nigeria. And we are not sitting down, we are going ahead. So as we go, we will generate our own power, we will have our own transmission line, then we will be able to eliminate some parts, the component of the tariff, one mix of the tariff.
Okay.
If I tell you, because there is meter, you don't need to run after anybody. We have made enabling laws in Ondo State to assist them to make sure that they have their revenues collected easily. So, and once we clean up all the lines, the energy will flow, we won't have a lot of losses as we are having now. And once we take out ATC and C losses, the tariff will crash.
Okay, Honorable Commissioner, I'll take you back to the question my colleague asked about the transformer distribution.
Yes.
But with this, there are new recent reports that the state government distributed some transformer to some communities. But yet, there are still some communities that do not have access to electricity and they do not even have a transformer at all. So what is the plan of the state government to ensure this transformer distribution to every community?
The chairman of this place, the DG, immediately came here, he approached the governor and the governor gave approval that this place should be connected to the grid. And I thank God you are on supply almost 24 hours.
Yeah.
So, but the issue we have at this moment is that we generate this power, give to offices so that nobody is running a better past my neighbor. By 5 p.m. offices will close, or at most by 6. The light will be taken from the offices and diverted to home, to residential area. And that means 7.5 megawatt added to whatever we are already running in Ondo State. You know what we have been battling with over time? It used to be about the tariff is about 500 naira per kilowatt hour. That is the tariff of running your generator. If you are running a bigger generator, maybe like all those 6.5 kilowatts of petrol gen, you'll be running up to about 600 naira per kilowatt hour. But electricity is giving you at 209 naira 50 kobo. So there is no way you want to do it that electricity will not still be cheaper. You understand? So now what we are doing here of solar energy in Unimed Teaching Hospital.
Okay, Honorable Commissioner, I'd like you to talk about the Lucky Light initiative. We've seen
yes, we have been seeing flyers.
Yes,
that flyer is being coordinated by there is an agency on entrepreneurship.
Okay.
Of course, the arrangement is not yet perfect.
Okay.
It's not yet perfect, and when it is perfect design, it is not yet on my table.
Okay.
Until it gets to my table before I'll be able to talk about it. But I think it has to do with, helping people to have a small energy to run small businesses.
All right, so Honorable, there are some communities that self-funded purchase of transformers but are unable to install the energy due to amount of money being asked for by the BEDC. What is the government doing in that?
They can manage, they are close to the people, they know when things happen around them. That is one. Two, we are already discussing with insurance firms where we will insure all the infrastructures within electricity infrastructure within your domain. We will insure them so that when anyone gets bad, you simply call the insurance company to handle it.
That's all we can take for this segment.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And we do hope that with this project from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources and the state government, most of this project that is being implemented is actually going to be favorable for the Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. So when we talk about Africa, because Africa is often described as one big family which is connected and united with true history, culture, and of course common aspiration. But despite all this, this incidence of xenophobia continues to strengthen that unity, and of course is leaving many Africans to feel unsafe in some other African nations. And so there has been recent developments that has actually included the denial right here in Nigeria. So today we are going to be looking, our focus this morning is going to be on protecting Nigerians abroad, the lessons we can also learn.
It's a matter of the people, how they feel, their perspective to life. It's about inferiority complex. It's about thinking that somebody has come to take your position or your place, or somebody has an advantage over you, you want to go back to resentment and working places and the family, between husband and wife, even among siblings, when you feel somebody has more advantage over you, you think that he's taking your place, so you want to replace him and all that, and you don't want to do that directly by competing. Life itself is about competition, is about survival of if Nigeria gets to South Africa and they're better, they're willing to work and all of that, they will displace the indigenes.
Do you think this is a socio-economic problem, or do you think it's a failure from the government of South Africa itself?
It started as a socio-economic problem. Lose control when you don't you see, okay, let me go a bit into some counseling. the people you don't have, someone you don't have control over, that doesn't have benefit anything from you, it will be difficult to control the person.
Okay.
It will be very, very difficult, except you manage the person that you have power. That's why I like ministry. They call it management. Because they don't call it leadership. Because in management, you are controlling these people. They listen to you because you have a power over them. You can seize their salary.
The government of South Africa cannot manage the citizens.
When you don't have economic control over them, they are poor. There's no facility. They even feel sorry for themselves for being South African.
Okay.
I pray Nigeria won't get to that because of the level we are going at.
All right, talking about Nigeria.
God knows that these people will hardly want to go back to Nigeria because of the economy of
we've seen videos where they say they want to come back. So they are even employing the federal government to come take them from South Africa.
It got to a point where they become unbearable. I had listened to a story of one person who married a South African, a man, but they destroy his property, destroy his office, destroy everything and all of that. At that point, you won't have no option than to come home. But ideally, for instance, if you are to be American citizen, sometimes you will not need to tell them to come and pick you before they pick you because they have value for life there.
Okay, so what more could the government have done to reassure Nigerians living abroad?
One thing the government had done, which I think I want to give them kudos for, is the fact that even in the face of this, when the government began to react, the South African Ramaphosa did not come